Applause. So we would like to have an energetic start for the second day. We woke up those who are sleeping. I would like to welcome you all. On the second day of our Congress, we have very distinguished speakers. If you like, I'll give a brief summary of what we have done yesterday, and we will play a very short video.
Hepinizi saygıyla selamlıyorum. Sayın Bakanımıza, değerli katılımcılara, Türkiye Rüzgar Enerjisi Birliği'ne verdiği desteklerden dolayı şükranlarımı arz ediyorum. Hoş geldiniz, şeref verdiniz.
Elimizden geldiğince bu istikamette yol alırken sizleri bu program vesilesiyle 2 gün boyunca yeni dönemin rüzgar piyasasındaki yeni dönüşümün Türkiye özelinde, dünyadaki küresel rüzgar piyasaları özelinde çok ciddi beyin jimnastiğinin ortaya koyacağı bu programdaki session'lar özelinde önemli katkılar yapmaya davet ediyorum. Tekrardan bu programın başkan özelinde, değerli başkanlar özelinde, katılımcılar özelinde de çok önemli bir dönüşüme, yeni bir yapı taşı ortaya koyması itibariyle ifade etmek istiyorum. Tekrardan bu programa katılmanız vesilesiyle hepinize ayrı ayrı teşekkür ediyorum. Hayırlı olsun diyorum.
Evet, çok keyifli.
It was a very enjoyable first day. I hope the second day will be the same. I would like to welcome you all again. I would like to invite Director General of Renewable Energy, Dr. Ozcan, to give the keynote speech of the second day.
Herkese günaydın.
Good morning, everyone. We are on the second day of this event. We will have an introduction session, a brief one, then we will have a special session. Renewable energy is our focal point as the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources. So we are in the phase of transformation and change, and renewable energy, shift to low carbon economy and fight against climate are not our only focal points. We will also need to improve the efficiency of grids, and we need to work on pumping storage systems and heat storage systems, and we will need to use technologies aimed at improving our agency, and especially in terms of wind and solar energy. We are in the phase of a rapid transformation. International Renewable Energy Agency stated that there was a reduction by 80% in investment costs. We are building our capacity, we are increasing our efficiency ratios. According to the projection of this international organization, there will be a reduction of 59% for solar power and 25% and 35% of reduction in wind power for offshore and onshore operations respectively. And within the last 3 years, there was a reduction of 50% concerning investment costs regarding renewable energy. And a global price is an indicator for that. According to the expectation of these institutions, within the next 3 years, there will be another reduction for investment costs. As the sector and energy market, we are in the phase of an important change. The definition of the current problem is energy market design. I'm not going into details because representatives of the sector are here. We would like to hear from you, and most of our team are with you. As the Director General of Renewable Energy, we are really happy to be hosting, to be observing the developments in wind energy sector. We are discussing all these issues with the President of Turkish Wind Energy Association, and we are devising some solutions. I'll briefly focus on some milestones. The last year, the 21st Energy Congress was organized in Istanbul, and a session on renewable energy was introduced. Adnan Amin talked about this issue as an important development. In 2017, we became an active member of IRENA, and in March we prepared the YECA for solar power. In June and July and August, we introduced our YECA for wind power. In June, we introduced new subsidies for local or national equipment for energy, and we actually evolved from local equipment 1.0 to 2.0. So we are also continuing to perform some more activities as introduced by our minister. YECTEM will come to an end at the end of 2020, and there will be a rapid development in the sector with the closure of YECTEM. When you look at the allocations up to now, we will increase the allocation up to nearly 14 gigawatts, and 6.3 gigawatts was realized. 2 gigawatts were allocated for wind energy, but there is no strong progress. So we still couldn't realize 50% of the allocations. We hope that we will also add 6 more gigawatts to these allocations. When you look at the investor profile, there are different profiles concerning biomass, wind, or solar power, as specified in Latin. We need to haste slowly. So we shouldn't ignore some considerations regarding quality and systematic issues by acting in a rapid way. Within the upcoming period, especially after 2020, we are involved in planning and designation activities, and by using our national and international advisory services, these works are still in place. After 2020, there will be no YEKTEM. We will not have any Schedule 1, and entries into YEKTEM will come to an end. And if there's a power plant that will be commissioned after 2020, of course, it will be okay. And YEKTEM mechanism will be in place until 2030 in terms of the commissioning of power plants. Feed-in premium was actively introduced. When you look at the global practices, some countries are still continuing to apply quota practices, and feed-in premium after competition and tender is introduced in some countries. We are examining these systems and discussing these systems, and we have a rapid time schedule for that. With the instructions of our minister, we will identify requirements. It's a difficult process. Costs will change and technical requirements will change quickly. And there is another issue concerning financing. As specified yesterday, there are financing and technical requirements. We will consider all of them in this transformative process, and we are using the word disruptive technologies, disruptive innovations, and we call it destructive in Turkish, but it is more transformative. We need to hold on to each other in terms of technical, financial, economic, and environmental aspects. And this needs to be a very sound process. In this sense, this association is an opportunity for us. So this is the end of my introductory speech. I also gave responses to some potential questions. Thank you for your attention. We would like to thank the Director General. He is invited to the stage for chairing this session, and I would like to invite the panelists to the stage.
Buyurun Sayın Genel Müdürüm.
The floor is yours, sir. Good morning again. In this session, we will be talking about wind power YEKAs and local generation. And we have very valuable speakers here. So I would like to give the floor to our speakers. Related to YEKA, last year in TWEC, we had a similar session, and during that session in November again, we were talking about we were leading to YEKA, and we talked about the procedure and the process, and we discussed, and some people talked about the advantages and disadvantages of YEKA, and they highlighted the point that in 3, 5, and 7 years there are some improvement processes, and I personally, by trusting you as industry, I presume that we could move fast, and 1 year later in solar and in wind, as we have planned, we have a new work model, and the requirements for that new model is Industry 4.0 or local productions 2.0. We discussed about these issues, and on the contrary, we also discussed about the reflections of this model. And it was a very intense process for all of us, and Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy and all the personnel, we just increased our communication, and it is revealed that as related to the work model, it could be repeated in the world, and in Turkey we developed this model together with you in France, Brazil, South Africa, Morocco, and Mexico. We worked on such countries' models, and especially in wind, participation was highly remarkable, and we had a very nice work model. If you want, maybe we can talk about the business model in this session for the local generation and etc. For example, for the we have TPI for the blade generation, and also in the consortium as a technological support, Siemens Gamesa is with us, and as the consortium leader, Türkerler Holding is here with us, so we can have their opinions. I will be the chair, and you will highlight the reflections. And for the next year, maybe we can get the opinions for the reflections of the business, especially for the local productions and for YECA models. Just a very small note here. We can start with Mr. Saygın, but those are very important remarks, and we will have their opinions. But as a small note, this business model for Turkey and in terms of globally, as it has a part in localization, importance in localization, and for the research and development improvements, for business development and for business extension, it is a sustainable model. And as it is stated in Bloomberg and in international press, in terms of business model, it is a shifting point. It is stated like this as a milestone for us. Of course, there are some difficult points, and we need to put some efforts, and YECA is moving greatly, very positively, the installations, etc. It all has started, and maybe we can also talk about the wind installations. But now it is turn of the speakers. First speaker will be Saygın Oytan, Vice President of Türkerler Holding Energy Group, and he is graduate of Middle East Technical University Industrial Mechanical Engineering, and he worked and he has experience in Schulenburg, AXA Holding, and all energy holdings. He had some senior positions on those, and then he was the vice president of Nord Energy in YECA Energy. He is now in the executive board member of YECA Consortium. Distinguished Chair, thank you so much. As our chair stated, my name is Saygın Oytan, and I'm sorry for my voice. For 1 year, I am vice president in Türkerler Holding Energy Group. And today is the anniversary of my first year, and 2 months ago, I was assigned as a board member for the YEKA consortium. I would like to introduce Türkerler Holding first. Türkerler, in the energy business section, for the distribution of electricity in one region, we are doing electricity trades and also gas distribution, gas trades. We have a very great concept, a wide concept in the holding. And for the energy, our current capacity 251 megawatts right now. All now in operation and all based on renewable energy right now. 80 megawatts rest, 123 hydraulic power, and the rest is solar power. And right now, we have one wind and one solar energy in installation process, and those are in total 80 megawatts. As I stated, those are in installation process, and 330 megawatts will be in use in near future. I would like to highlight that point. Those are all renewable, not for fossil or for natural gas. We do not have any investments in this area, and also in total 550 megawatts of 12 wind power projects are now in planning procedure. Those wind power projects of our group is one of the most comprehensive ones in our country, and in June, for the pre-licensing contest, we just won three projects, meaning 710 megawatts. And there is a certain price of $0.76 US, and when we calculate the positive costs, and when we calculate it with the megawatts, etc., it is $0.76 US. And among this 710 megawatts, we just won the 84.10 megawatts of the competition, and some of them are in Adana, and the average cost is 4.63 cents. In terms of local wind turbines or generators, there are some extra costs, but related to negative costs, we were not included in any of the tenders. And for the average cost, as I said, we won those projects. And right now we have 550 megawatts portfolio. And those are besides the ones which are in use. And in August, YEKA Wind, there is a consortium leading that as Türkerler and Siemens. I don't want to say tender, but competition. It is much more appropriate, I think. This competition, I would like to thank our ministry for having such a clear and very fair competition. In this competition, there was a great competitiveness. It was broadcasted in TV, in fact, live broadcast. And this prize, it is a record for the world prices. And there are no obstacles. We are moving very smoothly. And I want to state that in such a wind project, there are 4 points. One is price, and price is just one of them. Besides those, there is the cost of installation and also investments. Finance experts define as OPEX, and also CAPEX is another for the investments, and also the CAPEX and the coverage for the turnover. The cost of the electricity as a record for among the world, CAPEX, the investment cost, and also the cost of management, we are in a very low position right now. And for the capacity factor, we are in a very high position, and I will give you the details later on. All those 4 factors, 3 of them we are in advantageous position, but for one of them we are in a very disadvantageous position. But for one project's financeability and for turning it into operation, we need to take those 4 factors into consideration. And just talking about the cost, saying it is too low, or in similar projects, for example, in Russia, in Morocco, or in other countries. When we have this low price among all of them, and when they asked us, well, how can you deal with it? But we can say that in the other 3 factors, we are very advantageous. And for the project improvement developments, we completed majority parts of them, and 700 megawatts will be realized in Trakya region, Thrace region, and some will be in Sivas. 50 megawatts will be in another province, which we are doing the plannings right now. So we are talking about 4 projects, and we just divided 1,000 megawatts into 4 projects. Siemens Gamma, 4.6 megawatts turbines will be used. The rotor diameter and the height is targeted to obtain the hub heights are calculated, and we are now reaching the maximum levels of generation. And so among those 4 factors, we are just reaching our goals. So we can say that much hub height and that much rotor diameter, but it is not possible for us to explain it right now. But while calculating the cost, it is not coincidence, but there are certain calculations with wind measurement models. We did the analysis with those poles. We have all the calculations, and WAS Pro and all the methods in use have been calculated with CFD, which is a calculation dynamics, flow dynamics. As Türkerler, for the project development, we are in a very leading position, as you know. And we have 120 measurement centers that we have data, and 30 stations of our partners. And after the 710 megawatt competition in the regions that there is no stations, together with their polls and with data, we both them, and in total that means 200 wind measurement poll data. So, thanks to this, we have a data bank right now, and collecting and selecting data among all those. The modeling could take too much time, but Siemens Gamma, our partner, we referred to them for this issue, and they have wind energy analysts in their body, and all over the world they are collecting their the data and analyzing, and they sustain us those analyses from Germany, from Brazil, from all over the world. We started to have some emails. So Siemens Gamesa helped us greatly, contributed a lot in the process for the energy analysis. In Turkey, as we do not have such a supercomputer, in Denmark, there is a supercomputer platform. There are modelings, so they helped us for CFD. As powerful as your computer is for the process, for the operating system, the healthier the data you get. So, Xuan, right now, independent technical analysts just make reports on those issues, and the financial model before the tender was examined by independent international supervision companies, and as they're auditing and in the sector for the financement of a wind energy project, those are the inevitable steps that we need to take. And after the tender, after the competition, in order to add some added values, we did some we add some features for the connection optimization and for the for post-training optimization. And Siemens Gamesa, Kalyon, and Türkerler teams worked in harmony, and also Ministry and Director General of Renewable Energy. In fact, they are not as stakeholders, but they acted as a partner in this process. And related to financement, we also worked very together, because everyone said in Germany this is the cost, in Spain this was the cost, and the price in our country is so low. But for related to financement issue, we completed all the interviews, and for the project, as the first hand, I can say it is bankable, and in abroad, we completed all our interviews, and the financement will be not coming from our local banks, but from international banks. So we completed the first stage of the interviews. So in terms of the finance, because the existence of a project, we calculate the turnovers of a project. How many years will it take? In equity area, it just bothers the investors. In 6 years, they can accept the turnover, or for example, they can accept 12 years or 20 years, because it is all about the equity, because they accepted some periods. But when you are talking about the banks, that service rate and the equities and projects futures, when they check it, it is very clear that the projects that we have together with the turbines, the capex and opex of the project, all the factors with an holistic approach, it is bankable in accordance with our interviews with the financial institutions and banks in abroad. And as a summary, I would like to talk about the business model and the agenda. The project feels as when they are announced as YK, as it is stated in the official gazette. The official process will start. The permissions for the forest, for the installation, for the zoning plans, when we have those permissions, we will start. And Siemens Gamesa, after their contract signature for 21 in the 21 year, they will establish the factory in the area that is selected in 21 months, as I stated. And as Kalyon and Türkeler, we will be working for the permissions and also for the infrastructures in the zoning plans, electrification, the construction, and also the montages of the turbines will be included to the assembly of the turbines will be included to our business model. And when we have the general pictures before 2019, our first project, YK Res 1, will be in use. And after that, as the members of the sector, as a 1,000 megawatt project cannot be realized in a very short period. We are talking about 4 or 5 projects, and in those projects, the energy transfer networks, etc., those are all included. So in 2020 and in 2021, we will complete all the projects, and for our all YK projects, which are assigned by the ministry, and in total 1,000 megawatts will be completed in those years. With fast steps, we are trying to give those projects in service of our country, and as a local resource wind, we believe that it will increase the capacity of our country and it will decrease the current deficit of our country. And Siemens Gamesa's Turkey CEO Hakan Yıldırım will be talking about the issue.
Yani arkadaşlarımız var.
There's a crowd here. There's a great interest. Please keep your time to 7 or 10 minutes because we will have questions from the floor. And we are sorry about those who are standing and watching us, and we will request from the board to extend the capacity of this hall next year. Actually, from the speech of Mr. Saigan, we received a message. So far, so good. There are great developments. And in addition, all planning has been clearly identified, and Mr. Saigan has responded to many potential questions. In this sense, I would like to give you a small anecdote. As the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, we will not only create a connection or allocation capacity for YK, we will use a competition model and we will cooperate with you and develop this process together. Not only the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, but all the relevant public institutions need to understand investors better through this business model. So we are acting like investors. Previously, we didn't cooperate that much, but now we can establish a cooperation at a higher level with the participation of of all the relevant institutions. In this sense, this is one of the most positive outcomes of YECA process, and Mr. Sebahattin is here with his team. I mean, the licensing procedures will run more smoothly through these business model, and licensing procedures will be lean and clear in terms of their definitions, and this will be an achievement out of YECA at the end of the process. And we are a learning organization, and we will reflect these outcomes concerning simplified and leaner licensing procedures for YECA, and exchange of information is really important in this sense. And in terms of the sector, it is very important. I just wanted to share this information with you. We have received the instruction of Mr. Minister, and these bureaucratic processes need to be sustainable, simplified, and easier to apply. This is our goal. We will try to achieve that goal. So I would like to give the floor to Mr. Hakan Yıldırım. He is the Turkey CEO of Siemens Gamesa Renewable Energy. He graduated from Electronic and Electrics Engineering of Middle East Technical University. He completed his master's degree in Business Administration at Boğaziçi University. He worked in Aselsan, and he worked in energy power plants in Gamma Holding. Since 2005, he has been working at Siemens Gamesa. He is the Turkey CEO of Siemens Gamesa Renewable Energy. He will be talking about the reasons for local production and YECA concerning their activities and processes, and any potential difficulty that you have encountered. The floor is yours. Thank you, Mr. Oğuz. First of all, there's a great crowd. We are really happy to see you here. I know that this interest is not related to our persons or our companies. This interest is shown in this transformation phase, and you are trying to understand how our companies are going through this process. We are really motivated, and this is a very important process for us. Within the last 5 to 6 years, we had an installed power of 1,000 megawatts, and there are technological providers which had a higher installed power within a shorter period of time, and they have done it within a shorter period of time with more limited number of investors. When we look at the history of wind energy in Turkey, we have achieved an unbelievable level, as specified by Mr. Saygın. We have been really motivated since the beginning of the process, and it is still at the highest level. When I evaluate YECA in overall terms, I think it's a very professional process. I think it was prepared in a professional manner, and 8 large suppliers have been involved in this process, and investors have put great effort, and competition was good. And the price was not the desired price for us. We actually wanted to win the tender at a higher price, but this happens in business, so we are trying to create more value out of this tender, and there are some other platforms where we can create value in addition to price, and there are great technological advancements in this area. And 2 words are really important for us. When Mr. Oğuz stated these 2 words, are we talking about transformation and change? let's start with change. In terms of technology, there is an unbelievable change and progress in wind energy. And sometimes a new technology replaces the previous one. And you are talking about 140 meters of blade diameters, rotor diameters. Will it make us competitive in the next 2 years? We need to consider this issue. Technology is changing rapidly. Not only the blade diameter, but also suppliers have been changing. We are seeing some consolidations, and we merged as Siemens and Gamesa, because after you have had a certain scale, then you need to merge with other companies to be more competitive in the next years. Of course, the purchasing power of suppliers is increasing in this way with the advancement of technology, and with an escalated pressure on supply chain will decrease investment costs. In terms of YECA and this ongoing process, the technology that we will use can be different from what we previously planned. 2 years ago, we were awarded a tender in Morocco as Siemens, and it is 0.3 USD. So it's a very low level, as you can see. And there will be lots of differences when you consider a technology 2 years ago and 2 years later. And there are different setups where you can use this technology, and countries are acting in a different way in terms of financing. We are on the side of change, and there are also our suppliers, and we need to respond to these changes. The other word is transformation. Of course, this is a global concept, and Turkey is going through correct stages in order to be a part of this transformation. We are going through some tendering procedures and processes. We were giving examples of Brazil, Morocco, and South Africa, and there were some tenders organized there, and there was no guarantee of price, and local production was incentivized in these procedures, and we are seeing that the prices are going down and down. So this is a competitive price here. In August, in Germany, a tender was organized. In average, 4.28 kilowatt per hour was the price. In November, it will go down to the price level in our YECA. This price becomes a basis price for the upcoming tenders, and this is the benchmark for us and other countries, and all suppliers that are working with us will be ready for other tenders by considering this benchmark. Therefore, this transformation is triggered and understood well by decision makers and public authorities in Turkey, and it was actually organized in a timely manner. So being the first firm involved in this process is not easy. You need to create the entire supply chain. We have rotor or blade manufacturers, and they will improve their localization level, but they need to talk to suppliers, and they need to be encouraged in terms of the production of equipment which is not available in Turkey. And we are also talking to some chambers of commerce and trade, and in that way we can consider more than one YECA to be involved in investment. and gearbox production is of great importance here. In order to make those investments, we need to be sustainable and consistent. We are incentivizing localization with YECA on one hand, but with minus prices, we are not supporting localization on the other hand. Actually, when you are interested in local production, the rate of EXIM loans is decreasing, and we are actually expecting from Mr. Oğuz as system builder to incentivize this local production, especially supply industries need to be incentivized in that sense, and this competition needs to be incentivized for at least 5 years, so in that way they can be competitive within 5 years, and after a short period of time they become competitive at global level. So this is our request from Mr. Oğuz. They are always cooperating with us, and YECA was a competition until August 3, but now we consider it as a cooperation or project. So this is a project where everyone will cooperate with each other. But it was really difficult to create those suppliers, so we need the support of stakeholders in this sector. There can be some compulsory conditions for local production or supply industries. We can actually ensure this, we can actually achieve or comply with these compulsory conditions if we can create a proper system with the support of Mr. Oğuz and the Ministry of Energy, financiers, and turbine suppliers. We can overcome these problems and we can go ahead, and our dynamics can go beyond YECA. Thanks a lot.
Hakan.
In fact, I will have an intervention here for Hakan. In 21 months, you will establish a research and development center, but I will not ask the topics, but what will be the approach for rotor and for the increasing capacity, for the installations and for the bladers and for the operational excellence center, the control softwares, the production techniques, and there are some topics. As they are not limited to those, there is a research and development center, 50 personnel, and for 10 years they will develop, they will improve the system. And in the YECA process, in order to just take a step forward, not to be in the same point, there is a liability on all of us. So, as the policymaker, while following the trend analysis and for the transitions, we are learning from you and we are moving forward. We are the learning institution here. So you are as our stakeholder. And with the stakeholders in the sector, we had great time of working. We had lots of meetings till midnight, and Ruhan and Ömer is here for open innovation, for example. They just give us a sparkle for this issue, and when we transform it to the wind, as we are the learning institution, this open innovation concept was a new thing for us, and we started at that point as a technology supplier in Turkey for the Research and Development Center. Can you summarize your idea ideas. For research and development, this is the most inspiring and most exciting thing for me in the CIECA, as because after the graduation from university, we have this young population, and we can shape them, we can get benefit from them as a global company, and this is a difficulty for us, in fact, and I believe many of you will approve my idea. It is very difficult to have investment, attract the investment's attention. For local administrators like us, we are trying to compete for the global investments, and at that point you need a business model and you need to write the story of your business. Till YECA, we always talk about that as Siemens Turkey, 450 or 500 people are working in the research and development center in Turkey for Siemens, but without the sparkle, without an incentive, without that sparkle, it is very difficult to make it live. But I believe that we will have a great improvement at that point in terms of technology. We try to make Turkey as the hub of technology in the area. We have great advantages in Turkey. We have population which is young and very cheap. In fact, in India, for example, Research and Development Center, they are very qualified and very competitive. And as it is in Turkey, in fact, there are some incentives in research and development in Turkey, and when you just put them together, Turkey is much more advantageous and much more attractive. So we plan to move our Research and Development Center of India to Turkey. So we try to put it in a beyond level of YECA's expectations. Thank you. And the next speaker will be Mr. Gökhan Serdar. He is graduated from Bilkent University, and for business administration. I will give a note. YECA not equal to localization, but it is very important as a team. When we have the first model of YECA, the success criteria is to have a business model, and with Turkey's improvement in terms of exports, in fact. And at that point, now we have some concrete, we had some concrete results for wings, for rotors, for towers. We had exports. As Middle East, North Africa, Turkey has a logistic advantage, and with the skillful young employable population, we can talk about this with ministers. We had the opening of a school in Eryaman, and that school, for example, generates 80% of its own energy. So upon those issues, the financement issue is very important. The financement credibility of Turkey, when we check it, we need to increase our level at that point, and when we check the global improvements, as Hakan stated, there is a right timing. We try to catch that right timing, and if we take action in the time, we will be in advantage. As also Gökhan, I would like to state that he is CFO of EMEA region and graduated from Bilkent University Business Administration. He started professional life and in different institutions of Yaşar. He had the positions of CFO, and since 2014, he is in TPI Composites, and since 2015, he is a CFO of EMEA region. Thank you very much, and I am very happy to see such a crowded hall here, and it is a good sign of for our sector, I think. In order to obey the timing, I would like to state shortly about the TPI composites. And first, my slides are in English, so I'm very sorry. As we are a publicly open company in United States, I just got those slides from our United States Center, but I will just summarize it in Turkish. As TPI, we are the largest US-based independent manufacturer of composite wind blades for the high-growth wind energy market, and provides wind blades to some of the industry's leading OEMs, such as GE Wind, Vestas, Siemens, Gamesa, Nordex, and Senvion. And for when we check the company timeline, in 1968, it is founded for the powerboat manufacture. In 2012, there is a joint venture in Turkey. It is then transformed to TPI, and in 2016, we had our second manufacturing center here. And structurally, we are based in 4 countries: Mexico, United States, China, and Turkey. And our target is to have some hubs and just focus on those regions with our hubs. And Turkey is the Europe, the Middle East, and Africa hub right now. And when we check the world line out of China, because it is a very different region, very different geography. After China, now we are sustaining rotor blades to 5 biggest markets in the world. This is a very important slide, in fact, because here there is a 3.48 cent price. There are the key points here. You can see the LCEO. In the simplest way, in order to generate 1 megawatt hour electricity, you can see the cost here. In the last 7 years, there is a decrease of 66%. This 3.48 derives from this 66% decrease, in fact. And as Hakan stated, this is one of the most important. This is the most important point causing the decrease. And as better you do your job, you can get more work. And with the cost and the fossil fuel cost, now it is going under the cost of fossil fuels, so it makes it much more competitive. And there are some difficulties, as our Director General is here, Şenol Bey. In the nights, for example, we are imagining how can we move on beyond this trend, and how can we keep our seat in this competition. This is our hot topic in the agenda, in fact. And there are no incentives, feed-in tariffs are abolished, and also there is a tender system. YEKA is one of the most beautiful examples of this, and there is a great cost competition in the sector, and the comfort zone of the sector is now disrupted. But it is a nice thing, of course, for us. We are leading to the good way, and this is a very important factor. And when we check in Turkey activities of TPI, in Menemen, we have in Menemen and İzbaş we have factories, and 1,100 employees in one, and 700 employees in the second. So we employ that much people, and those are the countries that we do blade shipments from Turkey. In fact, from Turkey, it is very honoring for us logistically. We send many countries, especially the majority are in the close geography of Turkey, but you can see when we check the Turkey sales, they are below the average of other countries. We are exporting the blades very commonly, but with YECA, this picture can be seen in every other component of the project. We hope and we believe that we can have that steps. We talked about the YECA, and in YECA study, I would like to highlight a point. As our minister stated yesterday, while working on those issues, you need to take the other role. You need to think adversely. So while having the conversations, we talked about the specifications, and we just put lots of efforts, very intense schedule. And with Sebahattin, we had a conversation saying for the talking about the installations, epoxy or polyester. Which one do you use? And he asked very detailed technical questions. Even some person can say, I don't know that much technicalities, but for this YECA project, we worked really hard, we worked really in detail. In this chain of supply, there is a great transformation, but this LCOE decrease and the dynamics of the market for the competition level, it is very important. This transformation had to be competitive in order to be sustainable. If you cannot get the picture, this will be just a bad example like Brazil, but we are very different, we have very different dynamics, and we are capable of doing this. So, for the policymakers and the stakeholders, we need to be very careful, and there is a huge transformation and change. We are talking about sale prices, and as they are very competitive, we need to be competitive in the supply of chain. And in the wind, it is the same case as it is in the automotive sector. There is a very small risk. Localization, it is great, and in order to attract foreign investments and bringing them in the country, it is a good target. But when we push it too hard, maybe there could be levels of cost that we can lose the competitiveness. As there is, when there is no competitiveness in the market, there will be no sustainability. And we know that Director General of Renewable Energy, they are putting some levels for the blades, for example, 60%, and they try to increase it. But if we push it too hard, then there could be a loss of competitiveness in the market. I just wanted to highlight this one. And another perspective, maybe the investors of the wind energy. There are embassies, and there are also investors herself in the area. And in order to produce the raw materials, they will bring foreign investment to our country. So we need to lead the foreign investors in the right way. It is not just for the YECA market, but it is also important for the export rates. And in Turkey, there is a good investment climate right now for the regional investments. There are some priority status, and for project-based investment incentives, for VAT incentives, for example, or for credits. We need to highlight those points. We need to inform them correctly so we can have more investors. And yes, always talked about the research and development centers, and we have 53 employees in our research and development centers. So for the high technology production centers, we need research and development. We have the people, and we have the state funds and state incentives support behind us. For example, $1 increased, in order to increase it to $10, we we need those supports, and research and development incentives are one of the key points for that increase. And for the investors, while deciding on their investments, I just recommend them to talk with the state agencies in terms of incentives, and İSKA, İzmir Center for this business development agencies. You can talk about them, you can interview with them in order to get the correct information. Another different point that I would like to highlight, especially yesterday, they talked about this. Besides YEKA, there should be support for the other project also. And 2,000 megawatt tenders are on their way right now. But there's a critical point here. As there will be no YEKDEM in the future, it is an important point for local producers, for local generators. YEKDEM is not responding the needs of people right now. So for having the investments, those companies needs to be favored in the future tenders, so in order to have the wind in our back and move forward. And the last one for Izmir. We are active in Izmir. I am not from Izmir originally, but when we check, our beautiful Izmir just deserves this good sector. There is huge intensity in Istanbul, but Izmir needs the investment, and they have the potential. So for further steps for the wind concept, I believe that Izmir can be the capital of wind, and I wish it will be. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Gökhan Bey,
We would like to thank to Mr. Gökhan for this nice speech. It was really important to hear your words with regard to the opinions of the sector. YEKA is a business model, and it needs to be turned into a sectoral reflex in terms of technical, manufacturing, and financial competences, especially in terms of transportation competitiveness and change. He talked about maintaining competitiveness through some planning. Indeed, in the creation of YEKA model, we have learned a lot from the sector. We are still learning from the sector. In that sense, we will try to cooperate with each other in terms of improving our local production efficiency. There will be new investors in Turkey, and they need to be brought into our country, and Prime Ministry Investment Agency is represented by Mr. Zeynel here, and you can talk to him. They are assuming a very important mission here, and our activities and efforts are continuing in that direction. And while creating some parameters, we need to discuss, we need to operate filters very effectively, and realistic, aggressive approach needs to be in place for us. Therefore, we need to haste slowly, as specified in Latin. Last but not the least, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Mahmut Güldoğan. He is the Vice President of Ateş Steel. He graduated from industrial engineering at Bilkent University. He worked as entrepreneur in many institutions. He is the founder and the board member of Ateş Steel Company. So he asked me what to say, and I said that you are free to say anything. Thank you very much for this introduction. When we think about the situation 1 year ago, and we were organizing the fifth Wind Energy Congress, there was an uncertainty and pessimism, but this year I can see that everybody is happy and hopeful. Uncertainty is eliminated. So I would like to thank you for having this outcome in 1 year. At the same time, all stakeholders of the sector can trust in themselves in a more proper way. I hope the Fifth Congress has significantly contributed to the elimination of this uncertainty. I hope that the sixth one will be useful for all of us. I would like to thank the President and all employees of Turkish Wind Energy Association, and I'd like to extend my deepest regards to all participants. In terms of production or manufacturing, it is not very difficult to produce these products because we request qualified manufacturing, employment, export, foreign investors, knowledge and technology transfer. It is in parallel with the vision of Turkey. We are trying to respond to this question here. Can wind energy sector adapt itself to this change? This is the question for which we are seeking an answer. In yesterday's presentations, there was a concern. Prices have fallen rapidly than expected and in a sharp way. Indeed, we consider this development as a great opportunity, and it was emphasized by Gökhan in his presentation, and we are considering it from different aspects. Wind has become so cheap that weak countries in terms of economic aspects can use it, and these are countries around us, and it is providing a great advantage for us. And prices as regards wind energy have decreased a lot, so these products cannot be produced in advanced European countries. So you can actually be a pioneer in the manufacturing of the relevant equipment. There's another benefit out of it, and we are importing oil, and if energy becomes cheap, then our current deficit will be reduced. We are always complaining about being unprepared, but now we are prepared for this opportunity because we have an installed power of 6.5 gigawatts. We have lots of experience in public sector, and we have to diversify our economic power. And for the next decade, our minister has set an objective of 10 gigawatts. And all of us have seen that it is feasible to achieve that goal. And personally, I think that we can surpass this objective. So this is a sustainable domestic market, and it has great advantages in terms of logistics. When we consider all of them, as Ateş Steel Company, wind turbine components can be gradually manufactured in Turkey, and we have a great potential. I hope we can make use of that potential. If you allow me, I would like to tell you some consideration from the perspective of manufacturers, and I would like to give some messages to those who are thinking of getting into this sector, and these will be in the form of some determinations. If you allow me, we will have some recommendations to public authorities, and we have some requests from our clients. Before talking about these recommendations, I would like to talk about our experience. Ateş Steel was founded in 2007. In 2010, we decided to manufacture wind towers, and depending on the needs of the sector, in the north of Izmir, in Bergama district, we planned an investment in an area of 200,000 square meters, and we are very close to Aliya port, and we are are 3 kilometers away from Chandarlı port, and Bergama mayor is also here, and you can see the eagerness and motivation of this region in the manufacturing of wind turbine components. And I also agree with Mr. Gökhan. This is a great city for developing wind energy. Our first tower was manufactured in 2013. Just like blade manufacturers, tower manufacturers are multinational companies, so you generally need foreign direct investment. But we are only using local capital. At this point, we actually can produce 180 towers per year. 275 people are employed in our facility, and we are providing products to nearly all sectoral representatives. We didn't just produce for Mr. Hakan, and they just placed an order for us. And we rose awareness in two aspects. First of all, we are heavy manufacturers, so women generally do not work in this sector, but we generally turned women into welders. Our plates of 10 tons or 15 tons are bent and welded and painted by women. They also make quality control. This is really important, not only for Turkey, but all other countries. Because our clients, foreign clients, and potential investors are actually seeing women working there, and they are changing their perspective on Turkey. So the employment of women in this sector is a rare occurrence in Germany or the USA. So we are really happy with that. The second innovation comes from the adaptation of an existing technology to the manufacturing of tower components through the equipment that we have developed. And they were developed by our own engineers. And our cycle durations and our costs have decreased a lot. And with our own design, we have sorted out important problems concerning the manufacturing of wind towers. I would like to give some recommendations to those thinking of getting into this sector. Generally, we state that during YECA process, we have contacted with lots of firms and we sought for cooperation opportunities, and we have generally heard this question: is it feasible to do that business at these prices? We can comfortably say yes, and until 2040 and 50 we have a positive scenario. It's a long-term business, so we need to think of this issue as a long-term strategy, and we can change our expectations in investment strategy. You shouldn't expect the return of investment in 5 to 6 years, but you need to prepare your enterprise to 2050. Yes, it is feasible to do that business. There is another important consideration. Any breakage, any problem in supply chain is costing a lot to the sector. As specified by Mr. Hakan, our recommendation is to improve the capacity of our enterprises in terms of quality assurance, and it needs to be performed continuously. You need to improve your processes for more reliable outcomes out of your facility. There is another experience out of YECA preparations. Actually, while preparing YECA, we had great experience. Some components cannot be produced or manufactured by a single firm. Therefore, the industry needs to have strong cooperation. This is not a trend in our sector, but two companies need to come together to improve their capacity use ratios to have more economic outcomes and results. And they need to eliminate the risks of getting into this sector. Up to now, we have had great difference in terms of our logistical solutions, and we have very good logistics firms that are open to learning, and suppliers need to have creative cooperation with these logistics companies, and our clients need discounts, and you need to make some saving recommendations to them, and you need to establish transparent cooperation with these companies. Our one final recommendation to potential investors is as follows. Within the last 4 or 5 years, we have had some difficulties. If you return to 2010, with our current perspective, we could be hesitant in getting into this sector, but currently we are really happy to be in this sector. Sometimes some negative tables materialize. If you are tending to make long-term investments, just don't look at these tables, just go into the sector. If you allow me, I have some feedbacks to you. One of them is that you have really taken care of us well. If you hadn't supported local production, we would have had lots of difficulties in these outcomes, but we hope that you will give more support to us and we will be taken care of very well by your side. Because we are creating employment. We are creating a strong working culture. We are creating qualified employment. And it also covers social life. Lean manufacturing technologies are used and they are accessible to the houses of these people. We are exporting our products, we are making profits, and we are also paying our taxes, and we are having new dreams, and there are lots of reasons why you need to take care of us very well. And we have a great requirement. We don't have any port, and we have a target of $500 billion of exports, but our current ports prove to be insufficient for this capacity, and our clients are considering us with the delivery costs. And our location is very good, and we are subject to some losses because of the insufficient number of ports, and we are not getting into the port very well because of narrow roads, and there is no cooperation culture within the port. Of course, we are overcoming these problems with the company with which we are cooperating. We need some ports, and these component manufacturers need to be provided with a concrete solution, and we are also waiting for the completion of Chandarlı Port. I hope that it will be operational soon. As specified by you in your speech, you left a gray zone about the continuous support for local production. I hope it will continue, and we need your support and subsidies. I hope we will receive an answer from a public authority regarding this support. Local production needs to be supported in the future. Foreseeable market term is always used in Turkey. Wind sector in Turkey is foreseeable in Turkey. It was like that last year, but our problem is short-term shock waves in Turkey. Of course, we will increase our capacity to 10 gigawatts and then 20 gigawatts. But we need to have more sustainable capacity building in Turkey. Yes, Turkey is a foreseeable market, but these fluctuations need to be eliminated from the markets. So we need your support in that sense. There's another recommendation from our side. Maybe in the upcoming period you can make use of that. It is related to mechanism for supporting local production. We are creating 1,000 megawatts of capacity at domestic level, and Turkish companies are only using foreign equipment, and we are trying to incentivize or encourage firms to use local products, but they can buy local products and use them at abroad. So we can increase our manufacturing capacity in that way, and turbine manufacturers can export its products to other countries, and we can provide more competitive prices in line with TWEC competitions. And you can also provide us some advantages with regard to this production capacity. In addition, I would like to make some remarks on targeted local economy. The target of localization is not calculated similarly to the internal rate of return from us. And our clients always request us to make more efficient production. There are some problems here. Efficiency needs to be taken into consideration for the relevant calculations and estimations, and it needs to be in place soon. There are some expectations from our clients. This is not the expectation of Ateş Steel Company, but the expectations of some potential investors. You are very large clients, and their annual revenue vary between $10 million and $150 million. And potential investors think that we cannot sort out our problems with these large multinational companies. So our recommendation for these potential investors is to receive close support from the relevant public institutions. On the other hand, turbine manufacturers in Turkey have some local managers and directors. They need to open more export opportunities for us, and one of our clients has really supported us. 70% of our capacity is allocated for exports in 2017 and 18. Other turbine providers need to provide some facility for turbine producers to getting exports, and there's a very long payment schedule, and potential investors are a bit reluctant to get their payments with a maturity date of 90 to 120 days. And initially you are facing such problems. This is what I would like to say. Thank you for your attention.
Biz de Mahmut.
And we would like to thank Mr. Güldoğan. I said, please clearly, openly stated your opinions, but it is too blunt, in fact. We got some social messages from Gökhan and Mahmut related to Izmir. Izmir is a very nice city, and I came Ankara from Izmir, and in terms of investment, we can say every part of Turkey is greatly beautiful, and for logistics and for investment nature, those depends on some factors related to port demand. It is a very important one. In fact, we can analyze it very quickly. Ramazan, Deputy Director General, is here, and there is a local manufacturer port, and for the organizational structures, we are ready to respond such demands. In last April, we got a new structure. So with the Ministry of Transportation, we have a collaboration right now. And in the sector now we have women, so it will be much more beautiful and in a very clear stage of improvement. We know that in the final stages we had women, but in the production it is news for us. So in this next TWEC, maybe there will be other improvements. It will be a great collaboration in terms of consumers, for the producers, and for the sector. We had very important messages, especially for the quality, for the process improvement, and for the Lean Sigma and such models. For the sector, there could be centralized systems for the sector, and for fluctuations, for foreseeable stage, and also for stop and goes. In Italy model, in Spain model, we saw the effects, we saw the impacts, and analyze them. And we had some results, cause and result analysis, festina lenta in Latin. Just hustle slowly. This is very important, and we need to collaborate very closely. We need to support each other, and for technology suppliers, for local manufacturers, and also for the subsidies, for subcontractors. There should be a systematic chain here. And for the local production support question, till now, at the end of the 2017, we know that there is support for local manufacturers at 547 million US dollars, and we are in the stage 2, and we are targeting stage 4. Not the definitions, but symbolically we are saying those numbers. We need to be all together and move together. For the next 2,000 megawatts, there is a huge process, and with the current tender conditions, with the negative cost occurrence, the local support cannot be used by the winners of this competition. This is a possibility. So there could be a change, a demand in this conditions to the EMRA, and so we can get we can sustain the support for the local administration, local production. It is very critical for us, and it should be in the announcement process while you are entering the competition. You need to know clearly the conditions. We cannot change it later on. So in the regulations, there could be some amendments for the local components, and for other things there are some improvements, and we are also dreaming about those. One of my former administrators, he stated me, if you are seeing it in your dreams, then it is done. We are having those dreams. In theory, 48,000 megawatts. For realizing this to be a powerful Turkey in terms of energy, we are trying to create an employment sector of more than 56,000 people in this sector. And in YEKA improvement process, we are hoping that those improvements will be sustainable for the current YEKA model and for the tender models. While analyzing them, we know that there are some also unclear points driving recently. So this is just the identification of the problems and the possibilities. And I would like to thank you for your patience and your contributions. Now we can have the Q&A session. During the question and answer point, you need to identify yourself and ask your questions very shortly, very clearly. Not to me, preferably, but to our panelists. Now we can have your questions from the hall. There is a question right here. I see the second and the third one, so we will continue. Hello. I would like to thank the panelists. This is a great symposium from best electricity company for middle scale company. We are producing wind industry with carbon material, and we have an establishment with 20,000 inner side and 30,000 outside area. After YEKA, with Saigon, with the Colin and Türker companies, we mailed them with our opportunities and about our services, but we couldn't get any response from them for the supply, in terms of supply. And as Hakan Bey is here, maybe we can discuss what we can do all together. And we have machine equipments for this application. We have painting atelier, and we couldn't reach them in any way. How we can communicate, to whom we should communicate, I don't know. But in your presentation, when I saw your name, I just took my seat in the front and just tried to figure out how to connect with you. As for Mahmut Bey, 3 years ago, we wanted to visit their factory, but they just declined our request. You have women employees, and our company owner is a woman. So we have also some other small or middle-scale companies, but I don't want to talk about those. If you escape, they will catch you here. I am really sorry, and I want to invite you to our factory. Really, I'm sorry. You can exchange your business cards outside, so you can visit, especially for the business card exchange there should be, and for the mid-scale production capabilities, it is very important for us. Hakan is here, and Saigon said, I am escaping right now, but no. He needs to take a phone right now, so thank you very much. Hello, my question will be to Hakan Cem Yalçın from Nortel company. Hakan, like 4 or 5 years ago, in TWEC companies, we were talking about the direct drive and talking about the systems for the gearboxes. And it is stated that direct drive is a new technology. The gears are now old-fashioned. There is such an perspective, but I was also agree with that. However, I see that it is now Siemens is leading to the gears. I want to learn the reason behind this, and also in a near past, you stated that you will have applications of 4.2 megawatts, and in your research and development center, are there any new branding studies, or the same employees in the research and development will continue their work for the branding? Thank you very much. As Siemens, we are working on the gearbox and direct line. We've worked in both lines, and with Gamesa, we are still continuing our processes. We couldn't give a response to this question, in fact, in the company, but we need to check the unit price of electricity and with which technology you can decrease the cost and with which production line you can decrease it. So in order to compare them, the competitive conditions of today, you need to see the parameters, and which is, there is just one parameter. It is unit generation cost. So we are still working on this issue, and we hope that at the end of November we will identify our technology in this section. So besides that, for direct drive, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know the concept in Turkey. We sold lots of direct drive, but they also compare our direct drives with the gearboxes. So I always saw this competition. For R&D, it is not producing a new brand. The thing that excites me for the in terms of R&D, maybe 100, maybe in the future 200, 300 people in the employment part. So we need to integrate it to the technology and not to be limited with YECA, but to go beyond this. And in the developing sector, it is not important to see it in which chair. So it will be a part of our technology. It will not be a brand new thing. Maybe it will be, but in a differentiation technology, if we can make it a hub for our technology, those people will contribute a lot to this hub in terms of technology. Cem, the next question, please. And you can continue in the coffee break if possible. Thank you. We have a third question here. Thank you. Madena Transport Director General. I'm from Madena, and I'm also Deputy Chair for the Transformation Association, Transportation Association, and for the tower installation. You are talking about this YECA project. It is exciting for all of us, but in two topics we have important major problems. Between two stakeholders, there is a logistics sector here serving, and we as our transportation as association for the heavy logistic association, we just presented our demand in terms of legislation, and we will have a workshop, and we would like to have your contributions in that workshop, so we can all have our part here. We can all say our part, and while coming from I have experience in the area, so in terms of port, we also believe that Chandarlı should be activated with the port, but in many ports in Turkey, it shouldn't be just a container concept. In Izmir, Alsancak Port belongs to the state post-Turkish state railway. We know that the wind whales are coming from there, and we have large areas for that. The local manufacturers are very difficult to find. We have to import them from abroad, and I expected Mahmut and Gökhan to state those points, but from Menemen Free Zone, while they are going out there, the Turkish state decided that only during the days you can serve with heavy logistics, but not during the night. But in the Europe, it is contrary. In that free zone, the employees leave the area at like 4 or 5 o'clock, and we have great difficulties. So in order to solve those problems, Siemens Gamesa and other component manufacturers, we would like to have your contributions and support here. And I would like to thank you for your export services, especially in Serbia and in China. I know that you are in great competition, and we are just transporting the wind whales to Izmir, Alsancak area, and we need to focus on export. Of course, we will serve to YECA, but I will highlight another point. Please, a short one. In Akkuyu project, as you know, it will be in use in near future, and there will be a great services sustained to this project, and it will cause a problem in the sector, especially for the heavy logistics. And we expect your support in this area also. Thank you very much, Selçuk. So in the logistics, for the improvement phase of the projects, for the client services, in order to improve themselves, and for the public institutions, and for the regulatory authorities, and for the auditing regularities, we need to work all together, and we need to improve all together. We will have last 2 questions. We will have one in front and one in the back, so we can have them. Thank you. Enver Kaya from OSTIM Organization Industrial Region. In this project, in this wind project, the technology transfers, in which line they will be realized and how they will be realized. Thank you. You asked the technology transfer lines, right? For the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we had some meetings, and we can mention about those here as a response. For the suppliers, not just us, but to all turbine suppliers, for example. The first YECA is awarded to us, and we are trying to revive the sector and the ones who do not take the part, and we need to do some new components which are not existing in Turkey right now. So we have supporters here. And from the beginning, I was saying the same thing. The manufacturing of turbines, you have 15 or 20 main components, but nearly more than 7,000 pieces came together, and you need to just assemble all of them here, and then you need to carry that mechanisms, the conversions, etc. So the main technology transfer should be realized in this side industry, sub-industry. We can make the generator ourselves, and the localization in the generation power, the added value technology should be created, and those people who are working in the area can contribute it. And in our factory, those manufactured components are assembled. Yes, there is a technology also here, but we are repeating the same thing as all the industrial bodies. The localization in the YECA project, it is mandatory to have the localization, but the ones who are winning from here, not the manufacturers, but we need to focus on the sub-industry here. There are some factors that we need to focus at that point, because here we have a 1,000 megawatts YECA, but if that company in an important component with an innovation, if they decrease their production rates, then they can increase their interest, their income highly. So it is very important to focus on the sub-industry. In R&D plans, we need to update it like in every 4 or 5 years, so we need to see the requirements. And with the R&D, those should be examined by independent bodies like universities or auditing companies, in order not to have a conflict of interest with the third parties. And the consortium or the company, they need to identify a partner in terms of these examinations for this supervision. We just put our systematics in line with this. So thank you. And the last question, do you have any other questions besides that? No. Okay, the last question. Thank you so much for giving me the floor. Tuna Güven is my name, from Borusan MBV Energy. I have one question and one thank. I would like to thank to Gökhan and ask the Gökhan. You talked about the OPEX as one of the 4 factors. First, in terms of investment costs, yes, the sector helping us. It is kind of a secured, but for OPEX, you said we are working on that one. For the regulations, every central have to have a certain number of employees, and there will be a certain cost. And what are you thinking about this? For example, in one plant, having less employees in plant as different from the identification. And also my thanks to Oğuz Bey, since from his beginning he approached the issue with great wide instruments. He talked about the open initiatives and also Sigma and etc. All those arguments, all the instruments should be put in together, and I would like to thank him for having such a wide perspective, a broad perspective. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the Tuna for his question. Related to OPEX, there were serious work. How many plants, how many shafts, how many turbines? Of course, it changed accordingly. And like 10 minutes ago, I had to leave for a phone call, but one of the biggest companies in the world. I had a call and I had to take it, and I would like to apologize. However, I would like to give you this information that our project financement model and energy analysis are bankable and can be financed. And as I stated, one of the biggest banks give us the news that it is bankable, and I would like to share the good news with you. It is very important for us because this Kalyon Türkeler and Siemens consortium, besides that, as Tuna stated, there are people contributing a lot to the sector for the LCOD concept, 3.48. For making it real, the financeability, the bankability of this issue is very important, because any project that cannot be financed cannot be realized. So no matter what is your country, no matter what is your sector, even the buying guarantee is $15. You cannot guarantee the project. You cannot finance if you cannot finance it. Our ministry and our Director General, Oğuz Can, they contributed a lot at that point. And this in this YECA model, the local energy and mine policy, which based on trust. And as our minister explained yesterday, it's 10,000 megawatts for the next 10 years. The transformation in terms of wind and solar energy fields, we have projects, and in order to make them real, in order to decrease our current deficit, those projects are very important. And related to those, the first 1 gigawatt plan will be realized by us, and the bankability of this project, the OPEX, having a very low OPEX and minimizing it. We still have studies in this area and we are working on them. I cannot go into detail too much because yesterday, as our minister stated, in 2018 and in near future there will be some other tenders similar to ours. So for the competitiveness, I have some liabilities to carry on, so I cannot give you every single detail. However, we can say that it is in the minimum levels, and related to our project numbers, showed the institutions and also for the all the employee rates and etc. to cover all OPEX criteria. We are in the minimum levels, and in this sector, even if it wasn't us, maybe Borsan, maybe another investor, we know that another local company could have managed it, and they would have realized the same professional business models. So we all trust our companies, and we are at that point right now. Thank you. And about the tanks, to me, we have a great working harmony, and our minister had an order for us, and he is leading all the process, dealing with all single details, and our deputy undersecretaries, all director generals in energy sector, as public authorities, we are working all together. And with TPI, Gökhan also mentioned about this, we are trying to increase to 63% from 60%, and it is very critical for our country's economics. And we are trying to create some metrics for the financial terms. And as the Director General of Renewable Energy, Together with our related bodies, we are creating coordination channels, and Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Technology, and Ministry of Urbanization. We are all working together, and we are collaborating with you as the industry, and we are having feedbacks from you, giving feedbacks to you. So this is a teamwork, and today we had another teamwork. So I would like to thank all the participants, especially the ones standing in the hall. But there are two more questions, I guess. Are there too important? Maybe we can have them in the lunch break. There are two people standing here, so please just be quick and we will have your questions. Jem insisting on this, so we will have them and close the session. First here, please. With the blue shirt, can you ask? Please, just very short and concise, okay? Two questions, in fact. Maybe the answers will be short. First, we'll be going to Saigon. For the first Yekar wind project in 2019 or in 2020, you talked as it is in 2019, but in the market, if it is higher than 2.48, do you have the chance to sell it over 3.48? No, no way. And the second one, to Mahmut and Gökhan. In 2020, as Yekdem will no longer be in the market for the wind investors, for cheap financement, maybe the investors lead to abroad for better prices. And at that term, maybe we can say that they will not get benefit from local manufacturers. They will not buy from them, as they will be investing abroad. So, as a local manufacturer, do you have any hesitations for the near future? I can answer yes. It's in fact hesitates us, and it just concerns us. And for a local financement, we need to make it cheaper, and we need to work together in that part. Good news for the sector. For certification is very important, as you know, and Turkish Standardization Institution just a couple of minutes ago, they say that they are accredited for the TWEC, and they wanted me to share this news with you, and I would like to congratulate them. With Turkish Standardization Institute, I would like to congratulate you working with them, and for the industry, this is a very good news. In fact, if we have more time in the panel, there will be more questions, so I'm closing the session here. Thank you very much, distinguished panelists, for your contributions. And there will be certification delivered to you right now.